Do you want to start living your life with courage, conviction, and choice? Listen to my podcast today with Bernadette McClelland. She has simple steps that will help you change your thinking and start to live the life that you've always dreamed of living. And it could be as simple as saying, I am, instead of am I? Hi, Bernadette. Thank you so much for being my guest on the Choose Courage podcast.
Oh, that's my pleasure, Terry.
I'm so impressed with your career and what you talk about. I know you're a well-known, influential speaker on courage, conviction, and choice. Those are very powerful words. And you're also an author of 6 books.
I am. You know, the journey around speaking on these topics is, I guess, deliberately only recently.
Oh.
And my background is very much in sales and sales leadership, hence the books. But underpinning all of that is a journey that is anchored in courage and anchored in conviction and anchored in choice. And so the past probably year to 2 years, if I was really honest, has been like turning the Queen Mary around. And and so we talk about choices and we talk about decision. It has been. And this is where, you know, this is where courage comes into play. And this is where, you know, having the courage of your convictions comes into play as well. Because when you make a decision that involves closing down everything you've done for like the past 10, 12 years, everything you've focused on, which is predominantly for me, a consultancy based on sales training and sales leadership consulting, to go all out as a speaker on a big idea or an overarching message around courage and conviction and choice. It is a big decision. Yeah, but it's what fills me up. It's what is in my heart. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I stop working with those audiences. It's just that my focus is now around helping leaders, helping sales teams, helping businesses to actually achieve their results by moving from a mindset of, look, you could say some of them are at scarcity, but a lot of them are already at a successful kind of mindset. And how do they move that needle to get to a kind of a higher level of significance and meaning? And I think that that's where the world's going now.
Yes, I mean, just the more meaning, the significance. Like they think, oh, I'm already successful, but what?
Correct. Yeah.
What if you could take it a little bit further? Is what I'm hearing from you, and that's pretty exciting to be able to paint a picture for these people that yes, there is possibility of more, or having meaning to what you do, or making an impact bigger than you think you are already making. So what was the shift for you on this message? And why is it like the shift, meaning, was there a particular moment or something inside of you? And why is it so important to you?
You know, my husband and I, you know, we went for a drive, or we went for, actually, I think it was Christmas time, and we went down to Arizona. And coming back to Colorado, we stopped off at Taos. I think it's Taos, where the you know, the mud brick homes or the adobe homes are, and there's, you know, ladders that they climb up. And anyway, I've got this photo of me beside this ladder. And, you know, I said to my husband, my ladder's been against the wrong wall. And anyway, let that go. He kind of like did the usual husband thing and just kind of smiled and didn't want to go near that conversation. And anyway, it was, I've had this kind of feeling now for a couple of years, but we came to Australia and I was very, very lucky because, well, luck, I don't know what it was, but, I submitted it was like my biggest deal ever. And I submitted this proposal to the immigration department and, and it was for a green card. And there are 4 ways that you can get a green card. Put your name in the lottery, throw a chunk of change on the table, be sponsored in by a company, or marry an American. And all of those were off the table. And the attorney that we spoke to said, well, you can get one in this category if you can supply some evidence to meet the criteria. But your husband can't get a green card.
Oh.
And I thought, well, that's pointless. And she said, well, there is another category, but she said it's so restrictive. It's the same one that the Pulitzer Prize winner and Nobel Prize winner gets.
Huh.
And so I said, let's just try. And I have somebody who keeps every little kind of brag thing over the years. Well, I submitted it and 12 weeks later was approved.
Wow.
So we both got this green card. And we came over here so I could pursue my speaking career. So 2 years later, and I've still continued with my sales training consultancy. And I go out with a couple of girlfriends and I come home that day and one of the girlfriends had asked me a question. Anyway, it made me think. And I went home that night and I said to my husband something about the ladder again.
And ladder. Yeah.
And he had this look on his face that husbands get. And he said to me, and he doesn't get cross with me very often, and he said, honey, we came over here so you could pursue your speaking. Why are you resisting it so much? And I said, because sales training brings the money in quicker. He said, I want you to forget about the money and do what lights you up. And that night, it was like Taylor Swift, shake it off. And from that point on, so that was about 5-6 months ago. And that was the moment. I just said, that's it. I'm quitting it all and I'm getting very clear. I'm going to take my time. And so everything I do now is underpinned in courage, conviction, and choice. And I guess it's all about, for me, disruptive leadership. The premise being, if we cannot deliberately disrupt the way that we think, feel, and act, then something or someone else will do it to us or for us.
That is powerful.
And that is my overarching message that I'm going to market with.
That is amazing message. And I agree 100%. And that, if you can either be driving the car or you can be the passenger, and it's either going to be one or the other. And if you don't make a conviction for yourself and a choice, and we always have a choice. And I talk about that too, about courage, that things happen in our life or in our careers. And sometimes you're not in control of that, what happens, but we always have a choice on how we respond. And yes, and I think the disruptive part, I love that, because a lot of times we're just going with the same old reel that goes over and over, and we don't disrupt that same thought process. And we're not even conscious of it majority of the time. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. We are at the beck and call of our past and our future.
Mm.
And we have to learn how to be in the present. And it's such a cliche. And it's such a thing that we struggle with in lots of different ways. And, when we first hear that, be present, and we kind of think it's a little bit of like, and, sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya. And it's got nothing to do with that. It's really understanding that if we are not aware of the fact that our ego is at play all the time, trying to drag us back into past stories or drag us, pull us forward into future what ifs. And it's those two, like toing and froing that are causing us to make up stories that are taking us away from what's possible today. And it's these thoughts are addictions, and it's no different than somebody who's addicted to cigarettes or alcohol or drugs or whatever it may be. We are addicted to these stories, past and future. And so how can we kind of bypass that or override those addictions and learn to be more in the present so that we have that control over what we can control, and they are those choices?
That is such an amazing metaphor or way to perspective is addiction. And I never thought of it that way, but it's very
Yeah.
true. And they have power. They give us something. We think they give us something, but are they giving us the right thing, right? Just
Yeah.
like any addiction. So I think that's a beautiful way to look at this. So what tools do you suggest to disrupt this addiction of stories or thinking from the past and in the future? And how do we do that? How do we stay in the present time and be aware?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're human beings. I mean, it's a story. I mean, whoops. I don't know if you've ever tried to give up anything. Like I was
Oh,
a
yeah.
smoker for
Yeah.
years. And
Clothing, buying clothes, or, it's like, no,
exactly.
I have a
So
budget or whatever. Yeah.
that's right. So all of us have got some form of addictive behavior somewhere.
Yes.
And, I tell the story, Simon Sinek gives us the wonderful, golden circles, why. Um, but it's more than why. Like, I mean, didn't matter how many times I would look at that little tiny cardboard box, and it would tell me that I would lose my limbs, my lungs would fail, my life would be over, but dying was never a big enough reason for me to quit.
Isn't that crazy? Yes. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
So what was? And it came back to who I needed to be. And so that's why whenever I kind of, one of the tools is always identity. And and so what we need to do is, I believe anyway, is we need to be able, if we are going to look into the future, it can't be what if, oh my gosh, what if? It's
Mhm.
got to be, who is the person that I aspire to be? And how can I bring her or him to the present?
Yeah.
Because I need to start living as though I was that person today.
Yes. It's,
And that's a journey. I've got to show up as that person,
mhm.
as that mother, as that wife, as that speaker, as that consultant, as that friend, whoever that may be, as that person for me. So awareness, these words are words that we all bandy about, but when you put them in the right kind of context, um, we can start to use them as practical tools.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there,
yeah.
and what's the starting point? And it's just, I so agree that with this concept of we all have these goals, or a lot of people have goals to do something or be something, but it's always in the future and or not to be something that you were in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
ability to go, well, do I have to wait for something to happen to be that person? Or do I have to do, years and years of, therapy to get through something that happened in the past? I really believe that this moment is is magical in the moment. You can step into even the beingness of what you want, even if the doingness hasn't happened yet. You can step into that beingness, like I am a speaker. And today I can walk across the street into the grocery store, and I can be that speaker. I can,
Well, I think we all, well, not all of us, it's a huge assumption. Many, and some of your listeners may not have heard of that whole be, do, and have model where we
yes.
talk about being that person first. But I've kind of thought about that a fair bit, and I know that there's this whole thought process, and I'm using the word thought, the whole thought process around be that person first. But I think, and that's the word,
Oh.
I think we need to think first.
Hmm.
We need to think because it's our thoughts. We think first. We see something and then we think. We process something, or we hear something, or we see something, and so we think about it first. And then those thoughts actually trigger something,
Mm-hmm.
and create chemical reactions. The thoughts create chemical reactions, which then trigger feelings. And, if I see, because I'm a visual person, if I if I
Yes.
see if I see a sugar donut, then that's going to trigger a chemical reaction, which is going to make me feel, from a taste perspective, it's going to make me feel this really nice, oh, yum, which is going to make me feel happy and feel like I want to have this cup of coffee with a donut. And it's going to put me in a frame of mind where I might want to sit down, grab a pen and paper, and maybe write something. So it's going to put me in that frame of mind and make me feel a certain way that's then going to make me want to do something.
Mm.
That makes sense? But
Yes.
that whole being and doing actually starts with a thought.
So are you also maybe saying that the first step would be aware of your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, and the reverse happens too. If we see something that
Mhm.
triggers us to think something that is, a flip that is kind of not happy, like a piece of cheese for me. I know it's like really simple examples, but that to me is I hate cheese. So it's going to flip it the other way. So our thoughts will actually trigger how we feel,
Yes.
which will then trigger what we do, which will then trigger what we have. So whoever it was that said, I think, therefore I am.
Hmm.
So Socrates, or one of those guys.
Yes.
So I think another thing that, your listeners might want to contemplate is how often do we actually say I am
Hmm.
versus am I?
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah,
I am versus
am I?
am I? Am I? That
Yeah,
is so powerful.
yeah. So these are all just, little kind of tools that I use with my clients, that I share in on different platforms as well. That just kind of create conversations and just kind of, I guess, thought processes that help you think when you're sitting at the traffic lights, or but
Yes.
they're little tools that won't leave you.
No, and I think that those are the ones that work. Those are the
They are.
things that people remember, just simple
They
little
are.
things. And if it's too much of a change, sometimes they feel like it's just
I
too
agree.
overwhelming. So what would be the first step to disrupting these thoughts and being aware of what we're thinking and what we're creating in the moment with these thoughts?
I think what we've spoken about today, is, I think, first and foremost, is just being aware that, you know, our ego is what is pulling us into the past and pushing us into the future. It's, if you think about when you're stressed or when you're upset, anything that causes you to doubt yourself or any of that scarcity mindset, if you're stressing about money, if you know, all of those feelings that aren't serving us, that are holding us back, and we've all got them.
Yes.
We've all got them.
Yes.
You will find that it will be one of two reasons. One is because you are worrying about what ifs in the future, and you will be suffering from some form of anxiety if that's the case. If it's future-based, it will be anxiety.
Yes.
If it's past, then what you will be probably hanging on to is regret, shame, embarrassment, fear of failure, and fear of failure coming back into the future. So you are bringing with you into today all your past stories. And if you are doing that, then you are living today, you are living your life today in the past.
And who wants to do that?
So that, yeah. And ego does not want, ego needs to have a job.
Yes. Well, where do we tell ego to go?
You just say to ego, because ego's on your shoulder the whole time.
Yes.
Just say, hey, can you just give me 5 minutes? I'll come back to you in a minute. I just need 5 minutes.
Okay, that's easy enough.
That's it. I'm real simple. Like, seriously, I keep things so simple.
Yes.
And that's what I do. I know ego's on my shoulder and I know what ego's doing. Ego needs a job.
Yes, yes. And we need to give him a job, or he or she a job, by telling them just to take a break.
And we hear it all the time. Ego's role is to protect us.
Yes.
Ego's role is to make us fearful.
Yes.
So it has a job to protect us.
Yes. And our job is to make sure that we are have our own convictions and choices and not the ego's choices. Right.
Yeah, we got to
Yeah.
grow. We got stuff to do out there in the world.
Yes. And we're not going to be doing it with fear-based thoughts, because really, just like your example of what you've just done, if you listen to that part of the ego or the fear thoughts, you wouldn't be where you are today and living the life you've always wanted to live and making an impact on others with the thing that you're the most passionate about. And that's talking about this disruption and how we can live in the moment and how we can be more courageous. And you are being so courageous to do what you're doing. So if there's one last thought that you want to share with our audience on this subject and how they can get a hold of you for speaking opportunities, and I think that's what you're concentrating on, and how they can also get a hold of your books.
So a couple of things. If your listeners want to be part of a business intensive or, that I'm holding, go to BernadetteMcClelland.com/leader.
Okay.
Because coming up, there will be an opportunity for you to join me for the 5 bold traits of disruptive leadership.
Perfect.
Where I'll be sharing some of these ideas. So feel free to join me there. Once again, BernadetteMcClelland.com. You can join me on LinkedIn. Please just follow me there. Every other week I'll be publishing the how to lead in disruption. And
perfect timing in our world right now.
It totally is. And my books are on Amazon. Shift and Disrupt is specifically on how to sell stop selling widgets and start selling wisdom.
Beautiful.
Um, yeah, so I'm out there. So yeah, please follow me. I'd love to. If anyone's got any questions, just jump on LinkedIn and shoot me a message.
Thank you so much. I mean, what you're doing right now and making, you're disrupting a lot of people's lives by making this statement that we can have it even better than we think we can by disrupting these thoughts and changing our thinking. And it's very powerful. And I just love what you're doing. And I'm all about this too. We, you know,
Yeah,
we need to give hope to people that there is more. There's a lot more available, and we don't have to just keep it the status quo. There's a much more available. You can pursue your passions and take that leap of faith. And your husband was so wonderful to tell you that. I mean, I just think that's, what a cheerleader you have in your husband. And I just,
yeah,
y'all need that person to be that for them. And we can be that for you too, whoever's listening. Both of us are
yeah,
here to tell you that.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. Exactly. And it's not easy. And that's why both Terry and I will say this. It's you've just got to keep saying, come back in 5 minutes.
I like that. So if there's anything that you get from this podcast, just tell that ego, please come back in 5 minutes or maybe 10.
And maybe 10. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it won't leave you alone.
Exactly. So I hope you take that, at least that away today. And it's very powerful that you do have a choice. You can be courageous and find your convictions. So thank you so much for being my guest today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.